All right. So are you ready to dive into something a little dark today?
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Okay, so we are going to take a deep dive into Hell House.
Oh, Hell House.
Yeah. It's by Richard Matheson. And we're not just talking about like your typical haunted house story, This one,
No, this is a classic.
yeah, it dives into a scientific investigation of what is considered the most haunted house
I think it's
ever.
the most notoriously haunted house.
Yeah. So we're going to be examining the evidence.
Right?
We're going to explore different perspectives on the supernatural.
That's a good one.
And hopefully we'll uncover the truth about this place and all of its inhabitants. So what do you think? Is it even possible to, like, prove or disprove,
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly what Matheson is trying to do. He's playing with that, right?
Yeah.
He sets up this awesome battle between science and the supernatural. You have Dr. Lionel Barrett, who's a physicist and a parapsychologist.
Oh, wow.
And he's a skeptic, right?
Okay.
But he's offered a huge sum of money. We're talking like $100,000.
Oh, wow. That is a lot of money.
Yeah, back then, that was a fortune.
It's a lot of money now.
To prove or disprove the existence of life after death.
Oh, wow.
So, it's pretty tempting.
Yeah, I'd be tempted.
But there's a catch, of course, right? He only has a week to do it.
Uh-oh.
And he has to go to, you guessed it, Hell House.
Oh, of course, Hell House
Yes,
to do
yes.
this. So it's not just any haunted house. This place has a reputation, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It has a serious reputation. And it's not just like, oh, it's creaky and there are spooky noises.
Yeah.
It has like a sinister energy that permeates everything,
Yeah, I think, like, even the air.
The air, yeah.
Matheson does such a good job at describing this, like, heavy atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
Even that smell.
Yeah.
Like, it almost smells evil. It's described as, like, this awful smell that clings to you.
It clings to. You can't wash it off.
You can't wash it off.
No.
It makes you feel gross just reading about it.
Yeah.
So before we get into, like, the really scary stuff,
Yeah.
let's meet the team that's going to tackle this challenge.
All right, so we've got Barrett and his wife Edith comes along. She's his assistant.
Okay.
And she kind of provides this more grounded perspective,
Okay, so she's kind of like the voice of reason.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And then there is Florence Tanner, who's a mental medium.
Okay.
And she's really empathetic. She connects with the spirits in this emotional way.
Okay, I like her already.
Yeah,
So we've got the scientist, the voice of reason,
right.
and the empath. Okay, who else?
And to round out the group, there's Ben Fisher, a physical medium who was actually part of an investigation of Hell House 30 years before.
Oh, wow. So he's got some history with the house.
Yeah, he's kind of a wild card, adds another layer of complexity to things.
Yeah, I bet. It kind of makes it all feel more real, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like when he describes what happened during that earlier investigation,
Yeah,
it is truly chilling, honestly.
I bet. So tell me about this history of Hell House. Like, who built it? Who lived there? What happened?
Yeah, so the original owner was this guy, Emmerich Belasco,
Okay.
and Fisher describes him as just this truly depraved character
Okay.
who indulged in all sorts of like dark stuff,
Like, what kind of stuff are we talking?
Oh, you name it. We're talking orgies, drug use, psychological manipulation, just awful stuff.
So the house is, like, soaked in all this bad energy.
Yeah, it's like a sponge for negativity.
Ugh, it's giving me the creeps already.
Oh, yeah. And then there's this whole mystery surrounding Belasco's son, Daniel,
Okay.
who supposedly died under some pretty mysterious circumstances.
So there's, like, a family drama element, too.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like the house itself is feeding off all of this negativity,
Yeah.
amplifying it.
Okay, so you've got Barrett going into this investigation. He's a scientist, right?
Okay.
He wants proof. He wants evidence. He wants to see it to believe it.
Exactly. He's getting all of this elaborate equipment. He wants to record any kind of supernatural phenomena.
He's like a ghost hunter, but like
Eh.
a scientific ghost hunter.
Right, like a ghost hunting lab. And it's fascinating because he's trying to apply this scientific lens to something that's so intangible.
Yeah. He's trying to explain ghosts with, like, physics.
Exactly. He has this theory about like residual energy, the idea that like intense emotions can leave this imprint on a place.
Oh, wow. So, like, the emotions are so strong, they kind of get stuck there.
Yeah, and then they manifest as these seemingly supernatural events.
Okay, that's a really interesting concept.
Yeah.
But then you've got Florence, right, who's got a completely different approach. She thinks she's talking to a spirit.
Yeah, and it might be Daniel Belasco himself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she hears his voice, she feels his pain, his sorrow.
So you've got Barrett with his data and his machines.
Right.
And then you've got Florence with her intuition and feelings.
It's this great contrast in how people approach the unknown.
Right, right.
She's driven by empathy,
Right.
and Barrett is searching for a rational explanation.
Yeah, okay. So whose approach do you think is going to be more successful?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? And Matheson does an amazing job of keeping us guessing. He presents both sides, the scientific and the supernatural.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, here's the evidence, here are the theories, you decide.
Oh, I love
It
that.
makes you really think. And just when you think you have a grasp on things,
Yeah.
there's this crazy poltergeist attack in the dining hall.
Wait, seriously? What happens?
It's intense. Dishes are flying, furniture's moving. Barrett even gets hurt.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it gets pretty wild.
So who do they think is responsible?
Who gets blamed? Florence, of course.
Oh, so they think the empath is causing the chaos.
Right. It adds to that tension between her and Barrett.
Of course it does.
And it also makes you wonder about her role, right? Like, is she consciously or unconsciously influencing these events?
Right. Is she a conduit for the house's energy or what?
Yeah. Is she the catalyst for all this? Like I said, it's like this giant psychic puzzle.
Yeah.
And to try to figure it out,
Yeah.
Barrett decides to conduct this elaborate experiment on Florence.
Oh boy, this is where things get interesting, right?
Oh, yeah. They basically wire her up to all this scientific equipment.
What?
It's a really pivotal moment in the book.
Wow.
And the results are pretty astounding.
What happened?
She seems to be producing ectoplasm.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, and the temperature plummets. Objects are moving on their own. It's the closest they've come to any tangible evidence of the supernatural.
So is this proof? Like, does Barrett finally have his proof?
It's complicated. Now, it does raise some ethical questions, right?
Yeah.
Like, are they exploiting her abilities?
Yeah.
Is this really about knowledge?
Yeah.
Or are they crossing some kind of line?
It's a really good question.
Matheson doesn't give us easy answers, He gives us this complex situation and lets us grapple with it.
I like that. Makes you think.
Yeah. And while all this is going on, Edith, Barrett's wife, has her own encounter.
Oh no. What happens?
Yeah, in the steam room, she sees this growing shadow.
Oh, in the steam room. Scary.
Yeah, and it's messing with her, playing on her fears. It seems like this house is targeting each of them
Right.
in different ways, like it's attacking their vulnerabilities.
Like the house is alive, right?
Yeah.
And it's like toying with them.
It's a very effective antagonist, that's for sure.
Yeah. So is the house itself like evil? Or is it reflecting the darkness that's already inside these people?
Right. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So back to Florence. She's becoming more and more certain that Daniel is the source of these disturbances.
Yes, and remember, she really feels for these spirits.
Yeah.
And she thinks Daniel is trapped and in pain. And she desperately wants to help him move on.
So she wants to help, but Barrett just wants to study him.
Right, exactly. It's that contrast again.
Yeah,
He sees a problem to be solved. She sees a soul that needs help.
I like her style.
Yeah. But then things take this dark turn when Florence is attacked in her bedroom.
Oh no, is she okay?
She's left with bruises, bite marks.
Oh my
It's
God.
scary stuff.
Is it Daniel? Like lashing out? Is it the house? I don't know. It feels like things are getting really out of control.
Yeah. And this attack and this growing influence of the house,
Yeah.
it really starts to challenge Fisher's initial skepticism.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, remember, he was kind of dismissive of Florence's beliefs at first,
Right.
but now he's having his own experiences.
Oh, wow. So he's coming around.
He even rescues Edith from this potentially fatal accident near the tarn. That creepy pond on the ground?
Oh, I forgot about the tarn.
Yeah.
So the house is slowly breaking down his skepticism, kind of forcing him to face the fact that there might be something real going on.
Exactly. He's being forced to confront the supernatural, and he's not the only one who's changing.
Yeah.
Florence's connection with Daniel, it's becoming really disturbing. It's like she's trying to help Daniel, but it's making things worse.
So her empathy, which seemed like her strength,
Right.
is becoming like her downfall.
Yeah, it's a vulnerability in this environment. She's getting pulled deeper into this supernatural vortex, and it's taking a toll on her,
Yeah, like both physically and mentally.
Exactly. There's even this really disturbing scene where she bites her own hand
Oh my gosh.
to try and resist Daniel.
That's intense.
Yeah, it really shows how deeply she's being affected by all of this.
And what about Fisher? Is he still holding on to the skepticism?
Oh, Fisher is completely unraveling at this point.
Really?
Oh, yeah, he goes from mocking Florence to begging Barrett to just abandon the whole experiment.
Oh, wow. So he's done a complete 180.
Yeah, he's terrified. He's convinced the house is trying to kill them all.
Oh, no.
He even calls Barrett's machine a pile of junk.
Oh, wow. So much for science, right?
Yeah, his faith in science has totally crumbled in the face of all this.
It's like the house is playing them, right?
Ah!
Turning them against each other and just breaking them down one by one.
It really is. It preys on their weaknesses, their fears, their doubts. It just wears them down.
And Edith, like, she always seems so level-headed.
Even Edith has this really creepy encounter with Florence.
Oh, when she's possessed, right?
Yeah, it's one of the most disturbing scenes in the book. It shows how the house can twist even the most innocent intentions into something horrible.
Right. It's not just about physical harm. It's psychological, too.
It's about manipulation and messing with their sanity.
So, with everything falling apart, what does Barrett do? Does he give up on his experiment?
He's still determined to activate his machine, the reverser.
He's really holding on to that.
Yeah, even with everything going on around him, he's convinced that's the answer, that it will end the haunting and restore order.
So it's science versus the supernatural, but like on a whole other level.
Right. It's about this conflict between reason and intuition.
So does he actually get it to work?
He does, but the moment he activates it,
Yeah.
the house reacts violently.
Oh, wow. So it's like it's fighting back.
Yeah, like it doesn't want to be controlled. There's this intense light vibrations, a crazy loud hum. It's like sensory overload.
Oh, man. Matheson really knows how to create a mood.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can almost feel the house pushing back against them.
So what happens? Do they survive?
They manage to escape, think they've won, that the house is neutralized.
Yeah.
But when they go back,
Uh-oh.
they find Florence's body.
Oh, no, she's dead.
Yeah, and it's not pretty. She took her own life.
That's awful.
And her body is covered in these horrible wounds.
So even if they did cleanse the house, it obviously wasn't enough to save her.
It shows how deeply the house affected them, you know? Even if they thought they escaped, it still had this hold on them.
Like it left them all scarred in some way.
And it raises the question, if the house was neutralized, how could this happen?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It doesn't make sense.
Well, there's this twist.
What? There's a twist.
It turns out Emmerich Belasco, the original owner, he's still there.
He's still there. But he's dead.
He's pulling the strings from beyond the grave.
Wait, so even though they thought they cleansed the house, he was lurking in the shadows the whole time.
He was the puppet master orchestrating everything.
But how is that even possible?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
Belasco, he didn't just die, he planned his death very carefully. He died of thirst in a lead-lined chamber inside the house.
Whoa, that's creepy.
Yeah, he believed that this would amplify his residual energy.
Oh, wow. Like supercharge it.
Exactly. He thought he could become this dominant force in the house, even after death.
So he basically turned himself into like a human battery of negative energy.
That's a good way to put it.
But why go to all that trouble?
He wanted to control the house, manipulate life and death itself. He was obsessed with power, even in the afterlife.
It's kind of like he created his own hell, right?
Yeah, in a way. And it seems like he was pretty successful. He was tormenting the living, using his power to orchestrate the events that unfolded during the investigation.
So they walked right into his trap.
It seems that way. And it raises all these questions about the nature of consciousness, the afterlife, the limits of our understanding.
Yeah, like if someone like Belasco can manipulate existence after death, what does that say about the nature of reality?
It's a terrifying thought.
It really is.
So it seems like they went into Hell House with a plan, but Belasco had a plan of his own.
Yeah, and it worked. They basically played right into his hand.
Exactly. He used their fear, their investigation, even their attempt to cleanse the house to fuel his own power.
He's a mastermind, even in death. So knowing all this, how do you even begin to defeat an entity like that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It would seem impossible, right? He's like woven into the fabric of the house.
Right.
He feeds off their fear and knows all their weaknesses.
Like trying to fight a shadow.
It is a real challenge, but Matheson doesn't leave us completely hopeless. He gives us a clue, a way to fight back. The key isn't brute force or technology. It's about understanding the nature of Belasco's power.
Oh, okay. So they have to fight him on a different level.
Exactly. It's about strategy, about seeing through his facade, challenging his dominance.
So more like a psychological battle.
Yeah, more like that. And it's Fisher, of all people, who figures it out.
Fisher. But I thought he totally lost it, like mentally.
He did. He had that breakdown. Remember, he was ranting about how there's no God in Hell House?
Yeah, I remember that. Seemed pretty desperate.
It seemed like despair, but it was actually a stroke of genius.
Wait, what? I'm not following.
Think about it. Belasco saw himself as this, like, larger-than-life figure,
Yeah.
this roaring giant of evil. He loved the fear, he loved the awe he inspired. But Fisher, he denied all of that.
Oh, so he's like rejecting Belasco's power.
Exactly. He's calling Belasco's bluff. He's basically saying, I don't buy it, you're not that powerful. And by doing that, he exposes Belasco's vulnerability.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. So did it work?
Oh, yeah. It's pretty dramatic, actually. Belasco shrinks in size. His energy dissipates.
No way.
It's like the air literally gets lighter. The house sighs in relief.
So in the end, it wasn't Barrett's machine. It was Fisher's defiance that defeated Belasco.
Exactly. He refused to be controlled by fear, and that broke Belasco's hold.
That's such a powerful message. Like sometimes the best weapon against fear is just refusing to be afraid. But does that mean Hell House is safe now?
That's the thing. Matheson leaves that open to interpretation. Belasco might be gone, but the house is still there. It's like this monument to the darkness that humans are capable of.
It's a reminder that evil can take many forms.
Yeah, and that even in the pursuit of knowledge, you have to be really careful.
So after going through all of this, what do you think is the biggest takeaway for us, the listeners? Like, what can we learn from Hell House?
I think it challenges us to look at our own beliefs, our own fears. What controls us? What illusions do we create?
And how do we fight back against those illusions?
Right. Hell House shows us that we have the power to shape our own reality. We can choose how we respond to the darkness in the world.
We don't have to let it control us.
Exactly. We all have our own battles to fight, our own personal demons.
Yeah.
Hell House tells us that understanding ourselves, facing our fears head on, that's how we win.
It's a good reminder that even in the darkest situations, there's always hope.
There's always a chance to overcome.
Well, there you have it. Another deep dive complete.
Another mystery explored.
We hope you enjoyed this trip into Hell House. It's a wild ride, that's for sure.
Definitely makes you think.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.